Okay, let's start the military hat project. Before starting the process in Substance Painter, we need to do some checking lists in our modeling tool or software. For example, 3ds Max, Blender. It's not specific to any software. It's a general rules that we should follow. Okay, for the first, we are going to use displacement modeling in Substance Painter. Okay, so for this purpose, we need to have a clean topology, a quad topology, and at the most of the faces, we need a square face. Okay, so let's explain some logic for that. I'm going to turn on the wireframe, and after that, I'm going to create some sketch here. So whenever we have this kind of topology, I mean, this is a quad, right? But it's not a square. It's some like rectangle, and the space between vertex is too much. So in this way, after we creating subdivision and adding details, our details here, maybe they are in a stretch, and the shape in the final model is not good. So we are stitching to this type of topology, quad and a square. At the most of them, it should be a square. And the space between two vertices, it should not be the long distance. Okay? So this is the first rule. Clean, quad, and a square topology. And even you want to use other software like ZBrush for adding details, the rules is the same for that. So the second one is we are going to use opacity and displacement at the same time in the logo section in front of the hat. So we are going to use opacity for cut out the shape, and for the displacement part, we are going to push out our details. Okay, so this is the rules, and we need to create a space between the plane and the main model, because when we are baking mesh maps in Substance Painter, the effect of the square should be appear on the ambient occlusion channel in Substance Painter. So whenever we use cutout and, for example, creating logo like this, we can see the effect of the plane on the hat in the ambient occlusion, and it's not okay for us. So we are going to separate object from distance, and after finishing texturing process, we can move this plane in the position that we want. So this is the main logic here for the model and topology. So let's move to UV. Okay, I'm going to select both of them and add unwrap UVW map and open UV editor. So we have a UV space, right? This square is UV space. So the first rule is, please attention to these rules because it's going to affect on your quality. The first rule is, please fill up all the UV space area, and please don't leave any area free. This is the rule number one. The rule number two is, please keep the same scale for the UV island that we see directly on the model. Okay, so for the parts inside the hat, you can delete them or decrease the scale of the UV. So because we didn't see it anymore. And we are check all the UV island here are the same size, but for this plane, we increase this scale of the UV island. What is the reason? The reason is this is the main focus area with the highly detailed part. So we need more quality on the texture for that. So we are going to increase the area for this space and fill up the UV space with that. And if you follow these rules, you can increase your quality when you are texturing in Substance Painter. Okay, for the final step, I'm going to add one material with the same name to these two objects. Okay, so I'm going to press M, open the material, and create a physical material and name it militaryhat, and select both of them, apply this material. So let's create color for that so we can see the process is okay or not. So let's export the model in FX format and going back to Substance Painter and start our process. So I'm going to here, export selected, and I'm going to set a path for that, and after that save. Okay, I'm going to replace it with the original one, and in the FX export window we just need to have a smoothing group on. So press OK, and that's it. Before you're exporting the model, if you are going to work it in other software for UV or editing the model, please notice that you need to use smooth modifier or weighted normals. So I'm going to use weighted normal. It's okay, and convert it to edit poly. That's it, just a simple step. Or just use a smooth modifier in 3ds Max, or in Blender you can use shader smooth and auto smooth. It's good. And after that you need to convert it to editable poly and export it again. This is the small step that I forget. So that's it. In the FX window, we need to check a smoothing group as well. And okay, so we are done in 3ds Max. Now let's go to the Substance Painter and continue our path over there. Okay, so for creating the project in Substance Painter, we can simply click and drag FX file in the window, and the new project window is appear. The template should be on ASM PBR metallic roughness, and the document resolution should be on 1K, and normal map format should be on DirectX, and the check for the compute tangent space per fragment should be on. And our model, we didn't prepare the model in the UV tile workflow, so we leave it here and press OK, and the model is loaded here. Everything is okay. For the first step, we need to create our mesh maps. So we are going to bake mode, and here, due to we don't have any high poly model from other software, we just check this use low poly mesh as high poly mesh and increase our output size from 1K to 4K, and check on bent normal and increase anti-aliasing to 64x. So everything is okay. We should just press bake selected textures, and we need to wait to complete this stage, and after that we can continue our process. Okay, now the mesh maps baking is done and we can continue our way. For the first step after baking mesh maps, I'm going to create some folders for creating categories and creating some kind of color ID. Okay, so the first one is for the leather part, the second one is for the metal, the third one is for the fabric part in the top of the hat, and the fourth one is for the logo. So the folder number 1 is for the leather, the second one is for the steel or the metal part, and for the third one we can call it fabric, and for the fourth one we can call it logo or something like that. So let's create some fill layer and play with the color. For example, red for the leather part, blue for the metal, and the yellow for the fabric. The third one can be white. So let's create the mask, because this step is so important for me, and after a while it's so important for you, because in this way you can create category and focus on that category and create your material, the best material for that part, and after that you can continue your way in the second one and the third one and the fourth one, and again. So for the leather part, I'm going to add a black mask, and in the black mask I'm going to add a paint. The sub-layer system in the Substance Painter is very good to use, because whenever I don't want this mask, I can simply turn off. But if I paint the mask into this icon or in the layer itself, I couldn't even turn off or play with the opacity separately. So this is the most important thing that we should follow. Create sub-layers. Okay. For the first one, I'm going to use this option, polygon fill, and the mesh fill. Okay, let's go to the mask viewport, and I'm going to mask here. This is the leather part, this one, and this one. Okay, and here I have another leather part. That's okay. So let's go back to the metal. I'm going to create a black mask, and let's go to the mask again. I'm going to create a paint layer and select this part. So it's not a fabric, it's a metal. So press X to invert the color and select again, and press X to go back to the white and select the metal part. So let's go to the fabric. I'm going to add black mask and add a paint layer. So let's go back to the mask viewport, and I'm going to select this part. And for the logo, it's an easy part because I can add and select this part, and even you can go to the mask view to see what happened. So press M to back to the material mode, and that's it. We create a color ID for ourselves. And for fixing this issue, I mean one-sided mesh, you can come over here in the shader setting and press double-sided. So everything is fixed right now. And after creating the categories, I'm going to set my viewport to the best setting that I want. So let's go to the display setting. For the first step, I'm going to change environment map to the Tomoko Studio, and I'm going to increase the exposure, environment exposure, because at the end I'm going to use ACES tune mapping in the viewport. So for the focal length, I prefer to have some focal length around 80 or 90. Yeah, it's going to give me a good view. And for the tune mapping function, I'm going to use ACES. So this is for the display, and let's go to the shader setting. For the shader setting, the first thing we should turn on the double-sided option, and after that, I'm going to turn on bend normal. Yeah, and in the displacement, I'm going to increase subdivision count. The main point here is if you are exporting from your software, from your modeling software, a high dense 3D model with the good topology and good amount of the vertex, you didn't need to increase the subdivision count to 32, for example. Maybe 10 is good for you, maybe 20 is good for you. But in this case, I'm going to increase it to 32, because in this way, I can have a good displacement in the viewport. So that's it. And in the scale, I'm going to set 0.05, because this is the number that I want to use in, for example, other software like Marmoset toolbag. So that's it. And it's okay for the shader and display setting. Let's check texture set list. Yeah, the military hat is the material that I apply on the model in the 3ds Max. So everything is good here. And that's it. Let's go to the set setting. And in the channel, I'm going to add ambient occlusion and opacity, because every time I try to use displacement modeling in Substance Painter, after a while, I'm adding details. The details, it's like hovering details on the model. It's not connected to the surface. And the main reason is lack of ambient occlusion. So every time we are using Substance Painter for texturing, and we didn't use high poly version that created in the other software like ZBrush, we need to add ambient occlusion for ourselves and for our details in the Substance Painter. Okay? And for the opacity, yeah, I'm going to use opacity, as I told you before, for cut out the shape over here and maybe some details on the hat itself. So this is the reason that I add ambient occlusion and opacity channel to our list. And after that, I'm going to create a fill layer, below all the category and the folders, and call it base layer. And in the base layer, I need to turn on all the channels and leave it the default value of the channels itself. Because whenever I try to add, for example, metallic, roughness, or other data in the other channels, we shouldn't leave it empty at the first step. Okay? So this is the reason. And let's go to the next video. We start with creating leather material in Substance.